All right, welcome back, everyone. In this edition of the Red and Blue Political Roundup, President Trump is doubling down on claims made by his Attorney General, William Barr, that the FBI spied on the president's 2016 campaign.
What he said was absolutely true. There was absolutely spying into my campaign. I'll go a step further. In my opinion, it was illegal spying, unprecedented spying, and something that should never be allowed to happen in our country again. And I think his answer was actually a very accurate one.
Oh, but those assertions are not sitting too well with top Democratic lawmakers. They are accusing the Attorney General of playing politics with his position.
The Attorney General did exactly what President Trump wanted. He dodged questions, peddled a conspiracy theory, and, like the president, lobbed baseless accusations. It's clear for Mr. Barr the title he holds is far less important than the boss he serves. Many of us tried to give Mr. Barr a chance, but after this week's performance, it's clear as day. He and the president are working off the same playbook and planning to withhold crucial facts from the American people.
All right, let's go ahead and bring in our friend, Kevin Cirilli. He is the chief Washington correspondent for Bloomberg News. Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here.
All right, first up, why are the Attorney General's comments so concerning to Democratic lawmakers?
Well, they feel that there should not be an investigation into the investigation. And look, Democrats have toyed with the idea of looking at a legislative fix or judicial fix. But at the end of the day, this is something that the conservatives have been pushing for quite some time, even well before the president's comments. And Attorney General William Barr has made clear that within the next couple of weeks, this investigation is going to be kick-started and looked into. But there was also another major development this week, which is that the redacted version of the Mueller report is going to be coming out really any day now, within the next week, and that was a couple of days ago. So there's going to be major new developments in terms of coming out of the Department of Justice, and you know, the back and forth is just beginning, and this ping pong between investigations and investigating the investigators and all of that is really just the start.
All right, so Kevin, it's no secret that Democrats have been calling for the full Mueller report to be released, but we are not hearing the same thing from some Republicans on the Hill. Here's Missouri Senator Roy Blunt, who sits on the Intelligence Committee.
I do think that as much as possible, as we complete our intelligence report on these issues, a full report would be appropriate. But there are lots of reasons that grand jury information, classified information, and just information about people that the government, with all the resources in the world, has managed to gather that didn't lead to any criminal wrongdoing is, I think, a problem.
All right, so Kevin, with that said, I got to ask you, how big of a legal battle do you think there will be between Democrats and the Attorney General to release the full report?
Massive legal battle. And in fact, you know, I was speaking with the chairwoman of the Congressional Committee, Anita Lowy. She's a Democrat from New York, where William Barr testified earlier this week. And when I interviewed her, I said, ultimately, what do you think this is going to come down to? And she said subpoenas, and it is going to come down to subpoenas in terms of how Democrats are going to utilize their Democratic majority to issue subpoenas to try to do everything that they can to get the full release of the Mueller report. But you heard there from Senator Blunt essentially an argument that Republicans are going to have a very difficult time making, but they're going to try to make it, which is to tell the American people why certain portions of legal and grand jury reports are redacted or are taken out and not fully released. And that is something that Attorney General William Barr is going to have it's a case he's going to have to make to the American people in a very polarized time. So it's an uphill battle if you look at polls to see how that will work out in terms of whether or not people will be receptive of that. But it's an argument, no doubt, that Republicans are, as we just heard, trying to make.
So what is the sense in the White House regarding the release of the redacted report versus a full report potentially being made public?
Well, President Trump says release it. President Trump says release it. He wants it out there. The Republican administration officials that I speak with say that they would like, they point to the 420-0 vote that was a couple of weeks ago where the House Republicans joined Democrats and said release the report. They want to see it released. But you know, I also think that they're trying to walk this political tightrope where they're trying to say, look, the William Barr, the Attorney General, is going to make the decisions that he is going to make independently. Now, when you go to the testimony of the Attorney General earlier this week before the House, he dodged the question as to whether or not he briefed or anyone briefed the White House ahead of the 4-page memo release, or whether or not there has been an official briefing to administration officials on, in fact, the more than 400-plus pages of the Mueller report. So, look, it's become a political back and forth. That's going to continue. And ultimately, we're going to have to wait and see what is released. But if there are any key redactions, expect that to be the next development in terms of what is here. But hey, maybe everyone will be pleasantly surprised, Republicans and Democrats. Maybe they'll just release the thing and there won't be that many redactions or any key redactions. But something tells me maybe I'm an optimist.
Yeah, big optimist there. I want to get to the other big story of the day, the arrest of Wikileaks founder Julian Assange. President Trump says Wikileaks isn't his thing and that he knows nothing about it. But he did talk about it on the campaign trail in 2016. Listen to this.
They want to distract us from Wikileaks. It's been amazing what's coming out on Wikileaks. Boy, that Wikileaks has done a job on her, hasn't it? This just came out. Wikileaks.
All right, we've got receipts there. How much of a political problem could Assange's arrest cause for the president?
Well, it's already caused a significant problem for some of his former now top liaisons. Case in point, Roger Stone, who, you know, if you read the public court documents when he was indicted, there was no question that the court documents were talking about WikiLeaks, were talking about Julian Assange. So the idea, as you just heard from then candidate Donald Trump, that the Trump campaign was not speaking positively about Julian Assange or WikiLeaks does not match with what we heard on the campaign trail. It also does not match with what investigators found with regards to Roger Stone. But the bottom line is the administration is trying to distance themselves from Julian Assange, and it is quite interesting, though, if you look at the polling. There's a portion of Americans who are sympathetic to Julian Assange, this despite the intelligence community's clear signals that he was working against U.S. interests.
So why do you think they're sympathetic to him? What's the reason?
Well, I think for
the large number of Americans that you're saying, according to the poll.
Yeah, you know, I think when you talk to those folks, they point to the notion of transparency. But when you talk to intelligence officials and you talk to other folks within not just the Trump administration intelligence folks, but also previous Obama administration folks, they would say that transparency was rather reckless in the sense that it put lives in danger and national security officials in danger as a result of those reckless leaks.
All right, let's go ahead and talk immigration if we can. Kevin McAleenan took control as acting secretary of the Department of Homeland Security Thursday. How is he viewed by the White House and those close to the president?
Depends on who you ask, because there's a lot of divisions inside the administration. It'll be interesting to see how Stephen Miller, who's crafted in more of the Steve Bannon-esque wing of the Trump ideology, Republican orthodoxy, how he will mesh with Kevin McAleenan. Because if you look back to comments that Kevin McAleenan has made, now the acting director of the Department of Homeland Security, if you go back to the Bipartisan Center in the summer of 2018, he actually was quite praiseworthy of foreign aid coming from the United States to countries like Guatemala and Honduras, which we now know the administration has cut off. So that would appear to be a division between Kevin McAleenan and the current Trump policy with regards to several key things on immigration. But I can also tell you that I've interviewed some other more hardline conservatives who are praiseworthy of Stephen Miller, and they were quite praiseworthy of Kevin McAleenan. They said that he has the experience. But whether or not he meshes well in President Trump's immigration center, you know, that's a big question mark. This is issue number one for President Trump and has been for quite some time and will be heading into the 2020 reelect.
All right. Thank you, Kevin Cirilli there in Washington. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. Anytime. Thanks for having me.
All right.